Hey, I hit record because I didn't want to spoil our conversation off camera. Does that make sense? Andrew started saying something, and I just hit
killed
record.
The conversation with that.
I know, but I just noticed that we were all kind of just saying interesting stuff, and I'm like, let's just go. So, welcome to the Earthborne Games podcast. We got a lot of stuff today. I'm your host, Andres Carlson. We got a little bit of stuff today. And we got Andrew Fisher and Andrew Navarro and Evan Simonet. Is that your last name? It's not written on the screen like ours are.
What? Really? Weird. Yeah, I just noticed that. That's odd.
Well, you have to put it in there yourself.
Andres just met you. He's no idea what your last name is.
Evan Simonet of Simonet Funeral Home fame.
Yep.
Have you guys
Furniture. Yeah.
And funeral home.
And funeral home.
Oh,
wait.
right. What?
Oh yeah.
You guys expanded into You guys expanded into coffins. I don't remember.
Of course.
This. Okay. Oh.
I mean, if you're making cabinets, you're gonna make coffins.
Right.
A few more nails. A few more nails. But Andrew, please, you hate the new AI Apple commercials.
Oh gosh. Yeah. So it's football. It's football season again. So I'm back watching satellite television down here in Costa Rica, and as such, I'm being exposed to commercials again. So
Exposed.
yes. I'll just get into it. So I bet on YouTube, whenever an AI ad comes up, I've taken to blocking the ad. Like you have a little option to block. I'm blocking every ad that's about AI.
Oh, if it's about
sadly,
AI,
it's almost like every ad.
Oh yeah, I mean it's hot shit right now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like everything.
Is it this one with Bella Ramsey? Is this the one you're talking about?
Yeah, is that the actor from Last of Us?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So
okay.
I've seen two of the commercials. In both of them, she's like approached by someone that someone she doesn't recognize who they met somewhere. So she then consults her phone. She's like, "Oh yeah, it's you. I met you at this thing." That one, I'm like, I'm saying okay on. The other one though is she's in a lunch meeting with some Hollywood person, and she's like, "Oh yeah, I sent you that script. Are you interested in doing it?" She's like, "Oh yeah, I totally read that script." And she looks at her phone, and then the AI gives her a summary of the script from the email, and then she like just says it, and then she gives this like coy look to the camera, and they both end this way, like this coy look to the camera, like, "Haha, this is awesome." So like, what's the message here? Like, you can be a total degenerate dirtbag, like disingenuous, lazy, lying sack of crap, and the AI will like bail you out. Like, who does this appeal to? Like, what are we saying to people? Like, you don't even have to engage with life anymore. Just your phone will like smooth over all the rough edges for you.
But it's got to be so appealing. It probably is
to whom?
Rock.
To whom?
The dark side of in all of us. Yeah,
no.
I was like, I've been loving these.
I got a terrible memory, so I'm going to rely on AI to fill in all the gaps, even if it hallucinates. I don't care.
Right.
I will say the feature of the new Windows one that like fully takes over your whole operating system.
Oh yeah,
it has a feature where you can like ask it to find something and it'll look through everything you do to figure it out. Like, well, creepy would solve a real problem I have where like I'll talk to like you about something, Andrew, and it'll be like, did we talk about that on Discord, on email, on like, you know, which Discord did we talk about it? Did we talk about it in a video meeting? You know, like, the new creepy Microsoft AI, I don't have one of the computers that can actually run it, but like says that you can just type it in and it'll like look through your whole history with everybody and like find that moment. That would be useful.
So does that mean it would also like keep in storage like every video call you've ever done and then scrub the text?
I think it takes screenshots like every 5 minutes or something.
Oh, really? Yeah, I was going to say, I don't actually know the answer to that, but...
Man, it's the worst.
Yeah, I know.
Can be.
I saw this video of this clip from the EA investors meeting about AI. Have you seen that clip?
No.
Of like this, it's one of those like really cringy, like there's audio, like fake audio of gamers playing together and chatting, that the fake video game chatter that they do in some of those videos. And it's like these two people playing, and they're like playing this like first person game, and they're just like what should we do today? Like, let's make a level that's made out of cardboard boxes. And then they type in, make me a level out of cardboard boxes. And then it like poops out this garbagey looking maze. Let's make it more complex. And there's more. Like, oh, what if we could like run around here and like, oh yeah, let's pick some weapons. And they pick some weapons from this thing. It's like, man, there's value in authorship. You know what I mean? Like,
there is.
It's not just like vomiting stupidity from your mind and then being able to like run around in that vomit.
Oh,
I do think that it runs into this, like, it's already running up against this, like, it's not quite the oatmeal problem, but it is like,
what's the oatmeal problem?
Kind of, that's like a procedural generation thing where like it's a principle for procedural generation where you can procedurally generate 1 million different bowls of oatmeal, and every single bowl of oatmeal can be unique. Like no two are the same, like different numbers of oats in different places. You've written an algorithm that perfectly generates like 1 trillion unique bowls of oatmeal, but if you ask somebody, they'd be like, well, yeah, those are both the bowls of oatmeal, right? So even though they are technically unique, they are kind of generic. It's not quite that, but like I feel like we're already running into this generic, just how generic a lot of AI generated content is right now. Like I don't think it's like usable past a point, right? It's like good for filler, but like I don't think a lot of it can't stand on its own, at least yet, and so I do think it's like gone broad, it's kind of hitting, at least in the creative industries, hitting certain blockers. I just hope it doesn't like completely hose the like amateur workplace, right? Like for eliminating jobs for more inexperienced people to get experience, right? I think in the meantime, I don't think it's going to spell complete disaster for us. I'm just worried that it's going to spell disaster for our experience pipeline before people realize that,
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe the best I'm hoping for now is that there's just like a separate, effectively like different industries. Like there's an industry that just like that we have now that I think AI could probably fit right in because it's just content. Like there's a lot of garbage being pumped out anyway, so it may as well be pumped out by a computer instead of a human. Like the people who like that type of thing, like that's what AI is there for. But I think there'll be plenty of people who will fall into another category who are like, all right, I want to see something authored by people and made by humans.
I heard someone I heard someone say that it'll just be kind of the way similar to how we buy organic food versus ultra processed food.
Sure,
you just got to pay a little more for like a human made piece of art, or you could just have the junk food, and it's fine. It'll entertain you.
Right.
You'll have 8 fingers.
You'll have 8 fingers.
But no, I agree that I imagine we'll reach a point where they both exist, right? Like I don't think they're going to replace art anytime soon. I might be wrong on that, but that's my take. But I worry
not in our lifetimes anyway. I don't think. Like, not while I'm spending money on things.
But I worry because a lot of the people who are making the artistic, bespoke things got their practice and fed themselves while making cardboard boxes for the cardboard box maze game, right? Like,
yeah.
And if we cut out the human element out of the cardboard box maze, garbage, that person isn't going to have a place to practice anymore, right? And the only place they're going to have to practice is like amateur hand authored, which just doesn't make enough money to sustain people, which means a lot of people will wash out.
Sure,
and so that's when I talk about like the talent pipeline, that's like what I'm talking about is like, I think they can coexist alongside each other, but I do think it will make it more difficult for people to get the skills that they can currently get making stuff that's going to be made by AI, is my guess.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. There's value in like taking the time to make something instead of just putting in some text prompts and getting a thing.
I do feel impatient now when I search something on Google and I have to kind of, wade through answers, and ChatGPT just tells me the answer immediately, I feel like that's I mean, saves me time.
But that in itself,
but it might be wrong though. Like,
yeah. Isn't there something called like modal collapse or something where it's getting its answers from other AI things, which have gotten answers from AI, and it's a feedback loop that becomes less and less pure. And it, like, if there are words missing in one research paper, then AI that analyzes that doesn't have those words to explain it, and then that one is lacking. It's just like it's like the opposite of refinement. I don't know. I think that I heard somewhere that there's a lot of AI content, not just art, but like, text-based stuff, papers and things and articles. And those are being poured over by AI itself. And it's become kind of a weird problem where they aren't getting accurate summaries of things anymore. Well, I'm speaking very generally because I can't think of a...
Yeah. That AI video that we shared in the staff chat. Oh God, what was the YouTuber who put it together? But it was pretty hilarious. Where like the AI was like suggesting that people like eat a certain number of rocks every day.
Yeah.
Well, at least for like my Googling habits, I was already used to scrolling halfway down the page to get past all the sponsored stuff and all the weird like related topics. So like now it's just, one more flick of the scroll wheel before I can actually get to something useful out of Google. So
right.
I mean, like this election cycle, media literacy or lack thereof is really like on full display. So maybe people will need AI literacy,
Yeah.
Like this clearly is not the right answer kind of thing.
I feel like we've been on that track for the last 20 years. This like technology literacy that people like, if you have some of it, it's helpful, but now it seems like it's almost impossible to actually like really be in a position where if you're on the internet looking at anything that you can feel confident that anything that you're looking at is real at all.
I don't know. I think you have to grow. I'm staying with my mom, and I try to teach her every day, and I think it's hard. It's really hard for them to see the difference between AI and reality.
Yeah, totally.
No, I feel like AI introduced me to my first like old man moment, which was, like people were talking about like getting a job as a prompt engineer, right? And and I'm like, that's not a real job, right? And like, and I'm like, wait, it's gonna become a real job, and I'm gonna like, I don't know if I can ever accept that. And then like my son is gonna be like, Dad, that's a real job, and I'm gonna be like, no, get a real job.
Yeah, well, no, man, I think there's something to it. Like I have a family member who I have a lot of respect for. I think he's very, very talented. And he went through like at his job, he went through they went through a bunch of layoffs. Everyone got dumped, like a bunch of artists gone, all in service of like using AI as like previs and stuff in the entertainment industry. But he kept his job as a prompt person.
And
I was
really?
like, you sellout. You son of a...
Was he always a prompt engineer, or was he?
He was an artist. He is an artist.
Okay.
He's an animator and an artist. He is very, very, very talented.
Wow! Now he's a prompt engineer.
They just got him freaking guiding an AI.
Wow!
But he has a job, and the other people he worked with do not. So, such as it is.
Yeah, that's a hard.
It sucks.
Well,
I've not given him shit about it in person though, so I don't want to go off too much here. But when I see him next time, I definitely will.
Welcome everybody to the Old Men Yell at Clouds podcast.
I know, Old Men Yell at Cloud Computing.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
We finally did it. I will say, I mean, I used it one time to write an essay help someone write an essay to get accepted at this program, and she got into the program. All we did was we kind of just gobbledygooked some words out, and we're like, make this sound better, and then it made it sound better, and then you look at it and you say, that's kind of weird. Make this a little fancier sounding. Make this a little less sophisticated. You know, you're still in there, kind of guiding it and shaping it. And that, to me, I mean, for someone like me who, you know, I know it sounds good, but to like sit there looking at a blank page and I have to write an essay why I'm the perfect fit for a job. Fucking hate that. that part of life. I don't think we need to have that in life, but we kind of do, and not everybody's good at that. So it's kind of cool that there's a little
but I think if you're good at that, you're probably going to be good at the job. If you fake your way through that and get AI to do it, and you get the job. Good luck.
But what if it's a job that's not even part of the job? We have to write an essay for all kinds of stuff now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What if your employer says, like, you wrote such a great essay. I'd love it if you did this thing for me.
I say, that was AI, man.
Yeah. No, you didn't be like the actor in the Apple commercial and be like,
Yeah. Anders looks at the camera. You know,
that's right.
I mean,
what are you winking at?
Got you. Square.
I think we need to upgrade our membership to our podcasting recording thing and get AI to do everything for us, because they have all kinds of tools.
Oh, really? We can process our podcast with AI. Can they AI remove all my ums and ahs?
Yeah,
they can.
They do. They do.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I wonder what that would look like. Let's do it. We're gonna do it.
I will see. So, like, that kind of AI though, it doesn't bother me. Like, because that's not actually doing anything. Like the quote unquote AI that will listen to our podcast and then transcribe it all for us.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
That technology has existed.
Doesn't feel like I don't feel like I'm taking a job away from someone who's going to sit there like a stenographer and do shorthand for our entire thing.
So I do think there are people who do transcription.
Yeah, there used to be a lot of people. But this this is what people will be saying about creative jobs 50 years from now.
There used to be game designers, but
yeah. And there you have it.
That's okay. We'll grab hammers, join the Luddites, and start smashing stuff.
Well, this is that parallel economy I'm talking about. The pod people will have these conversations, and then there'll be the rest of us out there living in the real world.
Well, there it was, you guys. You've been waiting. You've all been waiting for that AI conversation from the Earthborne Rangers team. We've tiptoed around it for so long. So I'm on board. I love it. I love AI. Except for when it comes to
say that.
art.
Say that out loud.
Except when it comes to visual arts and music. Writing, fine. Which leads us into our next segment. Should we go books first, guys? What do you think?
Let's do work stories first. I like keeping the work stories up front.
Yeah, last time it was weird that we just went right into books. So let's go to work stories, and who wants to start?
I think Fisher's got the most exciting one, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it's only half work. So I missed the last podcast because I was in France for the last week and a half. This was actually, I know I was just in New Zealand fairly recently. This was actually a delayed trip. Sam and I were gonna, a couple friends of ours wanted to go to France with us and had this tour company they've gone on other tours with that they really liked, and they wanted us to join them. And so we had planned on it, but then Sam got pregnant. We had planned on it last year, but then Sam got pregnant, so we had to delay the trip a year. We technically could have gone, but Sam would have been very pregnant, and it's a walking tour. And, it's France, so she wants to, eat soft cheeses and drink wine and all these things you're not supposed to do when you're pregnant. So we delayed it, and we went just now, and it was fantastic. We we went to Paris for a few days. We did some of the your standard stuff like the Louvre and a river tour. We looked at the Eiffel Tower. We went to Michelin star restaurant and did all the fancy Paris stuff. That was pretty good. But then we headed over to the Dordogne region and we did this tour, which was really interesting because tours aren't really my bag. Like Sam and I are more the like plan the whole vacation yourself, rent a car, like go around, kind of immerse yourself kind of people. And so we aren't as much like tour or cruise type vacationers. But my friends I was there with definitely are. And so we did this with them and it was actually pretty cool. It was through this company called Classic Journeys. And if you look it up, it's a little bougie, just to warn everybody. Matt and Sydney have my friends have cybersecurity jobs. They make a bit of money. So one of the really cool things about these tours is that they don't just like have a tour and hire a guide. They like clearly find a person and have them construct a tour around their specialty. So these tours like exist around a person. And so that meant that our tour guide was like incredibly interesting and like had really interesting things to say about everywhere we were going. He was this French guy named oh yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say that's really cool. How did they like just find these people? Like I met this guy and he seemed like a cool dude. Let's see what he knows.
So my understanding is basically yes. I don't know their whole like recruitment pipeline, but they're like the head of this company is this like incredibly charismatic world traveler guy. And like Matt has gone on a lot of these, so he's met a lot of these people. And he gets kind of the impression that a lot of these people just met this guy and he talked them into running tours for them, right?
Nice.
And I think since it's a little bougie, I think they pay them well. And, like this guy, Bart, he lived in the Dordogne region half the time, Kenya the other half of the time. But so he's already living in the region. He's lived there his whole life. He knows it really well. He's an archaeologist, so he knows a lot of the archaeological sites we're going to. So he can like speak to all that. And like for him, so he doesn't have to drive that far. He gets to eat at all these like super nice meals and like gets to share all his knowledge and make some money. So like I think it's a pretty sweet deal for them. So I don't think he had to convince them a ton to do this.
That's cool. That's cool.
But yeah, Bart was awesome. So Bart was our tour guide, and he, like I said, he was like an archaeologist, and he, so when you're in the Dordogne region, this is one of the main archaeology hotbeds in the world. It has basically this river gorge that has these, and with the limestone is kind of the reason that whole region is known for wine, is it changes the acidity of the soil and stuff, but it also erodes interestingly in water to create these like overhangs and caves. And so it was like the perfect conditions. It also like maintains heat, so it acts as a good insulator. So it was perfect conditions for prehistoric people to go and hang out, right? Like they can stay cool in the summer, warmer in the cold, and they can find shelter. And also these shelters, these caves would preserve stuff. So that's like where the Lascaux caves are. Like a lot of the most well-preserved cave paintings in the world are in this region. So we did a lot of like that stuff. And Bart, like one of the caves we went to, Font de Gomme, was where he did like his thesis on. And so he had like just really fascinating stuff to say. And he was an excellent speaker and teacher. So it was, and Sam's an archaeologist. So it turns out they were only like 1 degree of separation, of course. So they had a ton to talk about, which was really fun.
Nice.
So for a tour, really enjoyable. I did actually, especially that we talked to this truffle master, and like he took us around his truffle farm and showed us how to dig up truffles and stuff. I have copious notes from him because he was teaching us all the different truffle names and everything. And well, he insisted there would be a test at the end, but there wasn't. So my notes were in vain.
Did you get to speak a lot of French? Were you nervous about that, or?
Ish. I was okay. I was a little nervous. When we started in Paris, I had a really rough time. The Parisian accent is a little mumbly. And so I was really having a hard time understanding people and felt like a lot worse like about how far my French had degraded. But then when we got out of Paris, like we took a train down to Bordeaux, And then my confidence kind of grew. Fewer people were speaking English once we were out in the countryside. And then also I just found most people way more understandable than in Paris. So like that really helped. I definitely, my conjugation's awful. Like I definitely say a lot of things just in present tense and let people figure it out, you know?
Yeah.
But we get there, you know?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, so it was just awesome time. Ate a lot of good food, drank a lot of wine. I guess the one other interesting anecdote I'll share. I talked a lot about this guy Bart, who was our tour guide, but I was actually really hesitant about him when we first met him because he had just recently, I mean, like a year or two ago, had his larynx removed. So he was speaking entirely with an artificial voice. He wasn't using the amplifier. He was just talking through the plastic valve or whatever. And so when he first started, I was kind of nervous. I was like, I don't know if we'll be able to hear him all the time. Like, it's a little hard to listen to and understand sometimes. So I was like, I don't know if we'll 6 days of tour guide, but he said we get used to it, and he's right. You kind of get used to listening to it, and he really worked around it, and he was like I said, he's like a certified lecturer in 4 languages. So this guy is like expert storyteller and teacher, right? So he really knew how to work around even the limitations of his voice. And actually, I don't know, it made it very unique. Because of it, he had this very interesting way of pacing his speech. It has to be a lot more purposeful than when I talk, you know. And so he had this very purposeful and interesting cadence that was actually made it kind of easy to process the information. So it was interesting.
That's cool. That was in English, right? He was speaking English.
Yes. Yeah, he spoke. I mean, Sam and I spoke some French with him, obviously, to practice and everything. But for the benefit of the group, he mostly spoke in English.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that trip was fantastic. Not much of a work story though. Now that I'm back,
it was a paid vacation, so you know.
Yes, yeah. Work. I didn't visit Intrafin while in France, so it wasn't. But now that I'm back working on the board game, and we've been doing some prep for Corey game, and we've got all sorts of Corey games. I don't know how much we've talked about it on other podcast episodes, but it's really kicked into full gear since the Rangers expansions got off to the factory and stuff. And so we've been kind of making sure everything is in place before we kind of go to next steps on the game, making sure everything's in place rules wise and everything. So that's been fun working with Corey and folks on. But yeah, so just been diving back into things and getting back into the flow. You know, once we've actually fully announced, I noticed even looking at the show notes I missed, we have a lot of working on things we can't talk about. But
getting very close.
Once we announce some of these things, we'll be able to share a bit more details in our work stories.
I just heard the title of Corey game, everybody, for the first time.
Be jealous.
Well, everyone jealous, right? Corey game.
Corey game. I was a bit disappointed that it wasn't Corey game, but you know, it was close to as good as Corey game.
It's called Quarry game, and it's all about delving into quarries.
It's like a Minecraft alike.
Yeah.
Dwarf Fortress.
Quarry game. All right, Evan. You win. You win with that one. Andrew Fisher, great to have you back from Gay Paris and the countryside as well. Evan, how about you? What have you been up to? I miss your voice.
Oh, thank you. Well, I took a little trip too. I took a trip down to the courthouse because I had to do jury duty and I missed some work as a result. So that's really the only change in my work story is that I had an interrupt in my work. But we still
almost made it to the end of the week without getting called in, last minute.
Yeah, it was nice because, as Andrew, you'd mentioned, when you did it one time, you had to be available at the courthouse every day.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to just call a number, and then they would let me know if my number was called, and then it was finally called. So I had to go in on Thursday last week, and there's just a lot of sitting and reading. I just started reading again, reading the book that I was reading when we were in Costa Rica, and made some good progress on that. But unfortunately, my number was called again, or my name was called, and then I had to go be interviewed along with like 20 other potential jurors, and then I passed that. I couldn't tank that. I couldn't get out of it.
Couldn't bring yourself to pretend to be some dirtbag.
You can use AI to answer the questions.
I know. Oh, that would be a great AI question.
ChatGPT, give me an answer that a lawyer will immediately excuse me from the jury for.
AI, I'm currently in voir dire, or whatever it's called. Help me.
What is that?
That was a word I learned. It's called voir dire. It's French. Is that right? Voir dire. It's where it's like a preliminary examination of the jurors to make sure that they're the types that the both parties and the judge want on the jury. So, they asked me a bunch of questions.
So they liked you.
Yeah, they liked me, I guess.
In voir dire.
Yeah.
So are you still in jury duty right now?
No, I wrapped up on
I missed
Tuesday.
That.
And
okay.
Yeah, the whole experience was interesting.
Yeah. When you
that
were
was my first time too. Sorry, I keep talking over you.
Oh, same here. When you were in voir dire, did you hear any other people like attempting to get out of it?
I couldn't say that they were trying to, but they definitely were like, I knew that they're out. Everyone knew they're out. And I couldn't tell if they were in on it or what, but
they're just saying kind of outlandish opinions about things, or?
Well, no, I mean, so if you can, I mean, so for one person, language was a barrier, and you can have a translator only if you request a translator. And either the person didn't know you could, or they just didn't, and then they just weren't able to answer the questions. And yeah, there's other reasons, but
they ask questions like, "So, what do you think about due process?"
Or rate it. They'll tiptoe around the elements of the case. They'll say like, how do you feel about, or what do you think? What do you think drives crime? And some people say, I think poverty drives crime, and other people say other things. And some of those people go away because of that answer, and other people don't. And it's not necessarily the same. Like, I think it's just discretion on the defense and the prosecution. I think they both have a certain amount of strikes they can give. Like, I think the defense has more strikes they can give out than other. Anyways, it's the judge talked to us after everything and answered some questions. It was really cool, and then and we got to learn more about the case outside of the evidence that we were given after we deliberated, and and then we got to meet with the lawyers, and it was weird. It felt like we were meeting with the actors after a play. They're like, "How'd we do? This is my first time." And we're open for.
Were you the actor?
Criticism.
They were
like the actors on the stage of justice, and we got to meet them backstage afterwards, and it just is so weird.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Well, I'm actually, I know you were like, oh, I got called, but I'm a little jealous because when I went, I just sat in a waiting room multiple days, like, because they would call me in, and then like nothing really came of it, so I didn't get to see any of these steps, and I was actually kind of curious,
Well, it is interesting. It just came at a bad time because, as for my work story update, we were trying to get materials handed off for a promotional event that's going to be happening, right? In October. So it was not great timing, but we got everything done that we needed to get done, and
it wasn't that bad. Yeah. It wasn't that bad of a disruption from my perspective.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah, I think like there are far worse times. Like if it had hit you when you were like crunching on art for the core set or something, right? Like that would have been you would have been so stressed. So I think in the grand scheme of things, this one wasn't bad.
Well, thanks for sharing, Evan.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm always fascinated when people do jury duty. I ask, everyone has such a different experience. I've never done it.
One last thing I'll say about it is every time we were given a break, or every time at the end of the day, the judge would be like, please do not talk about the case. Do not talk about the case with the other jurors until you're deliberating. And then whenever we'd go take a break, there would be like someone be like, so how about that thing in the case? And I'm like, I felt like such a Boy Scout.
Is that like a secret shopper?
I would just kind of laugh and chuckle and like, and then I wouldn't engage. But it's just, without a doubt, there was always someone
every time
just immediely bring up aspects of the case.
Justice Department plants trying to get you to talk.
Yeah. Gotcha. You're coming with me.
It very well could have been, though.
Yeah.
If they're choosing who they want to be on the jury,
who knows?
They don't want someone who talks about it.
Try to get a mistrial.
Yep.
All right, that brings us to Andrew Navarro. What have you been doing for work?
I've been working. So when I did jury duty, that's where I met my wife.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's
so
cool.
This day and age, it can't even it wouldn't even happen because we wouldn't even be in a room together. We'd just be sitting in our individual homes, typing in a number.
Oh yeah. But isn't there a moment? There's a time where you get to sit with everybody, right? Evan?
Yeah, but only if you get called in. Like I never got called. I just had to go sit in the courthouse and wait to be called, and then eventually they'd like let us go if it got to be like 2 p.m. or whatever, and they didn't need you.
Yeah. I still did a decent amount of sitting around in the waiting room with people, even though I was like on call, and a couple days I didn't have to go in. Even when they called me, I still sat in a waiting room. But like, it's not. You don't have nearly as much time, and not everybody is there, right? They only call by they call groups, so it was like me and like a dozen other people total.
Exactly. So I've been getting everything ready for the GameFound feast. That was my big thing this last week. Shifting really mentally a lot to Corey game. Corey wrote up pretty good description that I then have distilled down into, I don't know, 6 sentences maybe to give you the bullet points and try to draw you along in the project story. So I started working on a draft of the project story for the page. We got all the assets off to GameFound this week, so they can start prepping their ads and stuff. So 2 weeks, that game will be announced October 2nd. So we will. I know we were talking about before the show. Maybe we'll do a live Q&A episode of the podcast or something. To celebrate that, because we'll be able to talk about that game a lot, which will be fun. I also recorded a interview with Alex at I guess his YouTube channel is Board Game Co, but he's also the chief marketing officer at GameFound. So he's doing there's 12 total games in the feast, or projects rather. And he's doing like little 3-minute interviews for each of them, and then they're going to put it all into one big video. So I had my first public speaking talking about the game, and I had notes for myself on the things to make sure to touch on, and I don't even remember if I touched on them. It's always interesting, like if you were to go back in time and listen to like every interview or anytime I spoke about the game, or like at a convention or just with people, like how Earthborne Rangers, how I'd talk about it, how it evolved over time and refined. It's probably very different, or similar but different, by the time I'm talking about it now versus when I was talking about it then. So if you watch that Game Found promo video, that's very raw first time talking about the game. But it was fun. It was very, very short. So yeah, I've been working on that. That's been a really good time working with Evan on the art. And I was trying to be more hands off of the art, but I don't think I know another way of being. So I feel bad for giving notes, but I think the art's looking freaking phenomenal.
Well, I think once we find the pace, you'll feel more comfortable with being hands off.
Yeah. Well, it's also, we're doing a lot of world building at this time, I feel like, and and every piece that we're showing now will, be everyone's first impression. So, and the setting and the game is like coalescing in my imagination more now that I'm not as distracted by Rangers stuff and getting all that stuff done. So, I think it's been good. The world is really coming to life, and then seeing the work that Evan's been putting in on it, and Joe too is doing a lot of really cool concept stuff. It's cool. It's fun, and I've said it before, Evan. I love directing. I love directing Evan. It's such an enjoyable experience for me. So like I always hope that I'm not being like irritating.
You're the prompt engineer of the
That's right.
slow moving AI.
That's right. How about
you're more than that, but
let's put all these cardboard boxes in here. Anyway, that's been really fun. I pretty much have every production going now, which is exciting at one stage or another. I finally got I've been procrastinating on getting the World of Earthborne Rangers production going for the book, just because I know it was easy, but I kept thinking like, all right, well, I really should do it now because we're almost out of time. So I finally got that going, and it's worked out exactly like I hoped. Like, yeah, they're ready to go like right away. So I'll be delivering files on Monday, and it'll be ready by the beginning of November. So.
Yeah, they were cartoonishly ahead of the game on our first printing. So I wasn't super nervous.
Yeah, exactly. So like I think we found there was one typo that I'm going to fix. I think I'm also going to put the author names on the spine this time. And then a little second printing thing on the interior, but I think that's really the only change. So I guess this goes up Saturday. We'll give them files on Monday. So there's no more time for anyone to find typos in the in the world book and let me know. But there was one thing.
One thing. I think you should make my art bigger in there. I think it should be.
Your art's big. It's already big.
It's already really big.
The bat one, my favorite one. That should be the biggest one.
Maybe replace the cover with that.
Maybe 2 pages.
Maybe replace the cover with the bat art.
Fold out like one of those 4-page fold outs.
Yeah. Well, I have your names on the back of the book. I could make your name 1 point larger than everyone else's.
Okay. Please. It's the least you could do after all I've done for this studio.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. So yeah, just keeping an eye on production. Still waiting on proofs from Delano. I poked him about that today. I'm hopeful that we'll get them. I was kind of hoping we'd have them by now, but maybe next week. And then scheduling my trip then back to the States, hopefully to be there for that production. So that's really all I'm waiting on from them. So yeah, stuff's rolling. It's happening.
Awesome.
Yep. Oh yeah, and Chub Frog finished the books today. Very exciting.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, the books.
The books.
Are we back to calling him Chub
the
Frog?
real books?
Yeah, Sean.
Oh, the books.
Our Chub Frog officer. He finally finished those books today. They're very, very meticulous. We met to go over them right before this recording. And they
He's
look
able
great.
to shake down everyone that he needed to shake down for info.
Mostly it's just me. It's mostly shaking down me, and then and Ludafact, and James Naylor, and Team Covenant. Just getting more nitty gritty specific details on all of our various transactions and payments, mostly payments, but some transactions as well. So anyway, that's exciting. So like the last 3 years, we've had to defer filing our taxes for like 6 months because I just have never been ready in April. But this coming year, we will actually be ready at the beginning of the year. We'll have actual year-end taxes done or books done on time. So it's going to feel like a lot of taxes because we're filing now, and then we'll be filing at the beginning of next year. But I think that's a huge step forward for our company. I'm very pleased to have Sean on board and have that be under control.
Coolio.
That's about it.
Nice.
That's about it.
Thanks,
I
guys.
recorded a playcast and the files were corrupted too. That stunk.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that sounds brutal.
Oh man, it was awful.
And the first one that like Sean was helping out with too.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yeah.
I felt I was a little bummed for him.
He was playing with you?
No, he was just on comms with me. So like we were just talking, and I was I was sharing with him what I was doing and what was going on, and it was just a fun conversation. I kept having issues with my phone getting full because my storage was full. I was also recording at 60 frames per second. Probably didn't need to do that.
No.
But all of the top-down stuff that I was recording on my phone worked fine. But then the recording I was doing of my face with my computer, which has never had a problem before, like that file got corrupted somehow. So I was like, man, all right. So we're gonna re-record. We'll have one up next week. But I had to get up the fortitude to do it again. So it was very deflating because one, it was a very fun episode, and two, it was also a good session. I got a lot done. I got everything I'd want, and it was entertaining. It was good. So we'll have to do it again.
You said you have the audio. The audio still exists. You could just rehearse it. You could replay.
It didn't have I think if the audio was saved separately, I would have tried to find a way to salvage it. But the audio was tied to the
I see.
Face view. Yeah.
Evan, you had an idea there?
No, I was just going to say, it reminds me that early on in my time making art for Rangers, back when our cats were kittens, my computer was plugged into this outlet over here instead of one back here, and it was very loose, and the cats would just attack it because they're kittens. They had a lot of energy. And I was saving, I think it might have been the one of the Grasslands pieces, the root.
The morning root?
The morning root?
Yeah.
I was saving, and then my cat Buzz pawed the power out of the wall while it was saving.
That's right.
And then when I turned the computer back on, it was like a corrupted file, like in 2/3 to 3/4 of the image was black with weird warped red lines, and it was just a flat document, and had to redo it. It felt really bad. It felt really, really bad.
You had to redraw it? You couldn't even recover anything?
I guess it didn't save. Sometimes when Photoshop crashes, it'll save your document for you, but it didn't even do that, so...
Well, if you had AI then, it could just tell Photoshop to fill it in.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, a couple weeks ago, we got a question from Tobin. What are your top 5 favorite books? Whatever that means to you. And last week, Maxine did it. And this week, I'm going to give it a go.
It's
definitely gonna be a different vibe. I just said, let's think of 5. Let's think of them. So I typed down 5 during the podcast last week, and I'm just going to go with it. And I don't know what I'm going to say about them, but but here they are. I don't read a lot.
So what are your qualifications? Are these your favorite books? Are these the most influential to you?
Well, that's influential.
How did you choose them?
I think each one's different. Each one's different.
All right, cool.
So no particular order. I chose a graphic novel called Jimmy Corrigan, the Smartest Kid on Earth. Has anybody read this one?
No.
Oh, no, is that making fun of Billy Corrigan from Smashing Pumpkins?
No,
oh,
it's
okay.
not. Jimmy Corrigan.
Okay.
And it's by the artist Chris Ware, who does these meticulous, very graphic design looking panels. It's if you've never seen the artwork of Chris Ware, you gotta look him up.
This is cool. Yeah.
But this book, I've read it multiple times, and like I said last week, the thing about me and reading is I don't really remember what it was about. I remember how it felt, and I remember this was very kind of a bleak story. It follows this kid from like birth to death, and he's not the smartest person on earth. He's actually kind of an ordinary guy, but it's drawn in this style that is very like huge and just beautiful. But it's just telling kind of a life of a sad guy, and I like stuff about just normal people having sadness, and I can't really remember what it's about honestly, but I liked it. I loved it a lot, and it's from a time where I was really into graphic novels and comics, and I attempted to make some of my own, and I self-published a couple, like kind of in my college days. Evan might remember I did a lot of that stuff in college, so that's maybe one of my favorites of that era. Maybe not my favorite, but it's one that I thought of.
If I were to guess about the story, it would be about a guy who believes he's the smartest person and is trying his best to get people to agree with him, and that's the source of his struggle and despair.
Did you look that up on ChatGPT?
No, I'm just... yes, I did. I should try that right now.
Maybe that's right. I've been meaning to reread this lately.
The art style is really interesting because it's really flat with like these really dark outlines. It almost reminds me, this is going to be, this is not a flattering comparison, I don't think, but it reminds me of like airline safety cartoons.
It does kind of
like
have that look.
Those kind of very flat airline safety, but like paginated, like the way it's so many different panels all across this page has like, it's interesting.
And he's really
very clean, but like there's a lot going on at the same time.
Yeah, it's structured like Sunday comics almost.
And I think he's fascinated with newspaper layouts and graphic design, and a lot of his stuff is, I think he's interested in hand drawn graphic design of early days and newspapers and such. So it's just like so lush with things to look at, and sometimes almost like architectural drawings, like just perfect buildings and stuff. Like each page looks like it took weeks to complete. But it's just gigantic book, and he has many books that are even bigger than this, and he does big large format books. I'm surprised you guys don't know of Chris Ware.
No,
it's great. He's great. Then this book, 10th of December by George Saunders. It's he's kind of like in the past 20 years or so, I think one of the more kind of the alt literary guys, with like what's his name, who did Where the Wild Things Are.
Maurice Sendak?
No, the movie. He it's not coming to me. Anyway,
not actually, who did Where the Wild Things Are?
Who wrote the movie? Anyway, people know who he is. 10th of December. It's just short stories. They're like each one is written with a totally different voice, and they're weird and kind of sci-fi at times. Sometimes very true to life, which is something I'm drawn to in writing. Stuff that's just about human beings, like reality. I think that's, as I was thinking about like what I'm drawn to when it comes to reading, tends to be nonfiction or something that feels true to life. Unless it's like really creative sci-fi and weird in a way, I can go for that too. But 10th of December, George Saunders. Coming in at number 4.
What made it like pop out to you when you were writing that list last week? Like what brought it to your memory?
Oh, right. Is it influential? Is it
Why did it pop? Like what about it popped into your head over other books?
I think it's hard to like. I think reading a book is not my chosen. If I'm going to like rank the form of entertainment that I choose to go to when I have free time, books would probably be like 5th on the list. And I just remember that this. So when I'm trying to start reading things, I throw them out real quick. I find something I don't like about it. Like that doesn't ring true. I can hear the author like concocting this line in his head, like, oh, what should this character say next? And it feels contrived or whatever.
Contrived, yeah.
Yeah. So like I can get turned off so easily. That book, it was like speaking my language. So I think the things that I like, it speaks my language. I think it tends to be things that are weirder. Like I said, like true to life.
Have you read any Raymond Carver ever?
I think I tried. Does he do like? Yeah.
Well, he does like he was one of my favorite authors when I was in college. And he is kind of known as like someone who really luxuriates in the mundane, but then also like writes in this really sparse way where you're really just getting just the details you need, but it's presented in this really beautiful, almost like poetic way.
I love that.
Yeah, he was really influential to me in college. Not on my list, but really awesome writing and very digestible and really easy to read.
Is it
short stories?
Is it like
so like
noir? Does he do like noir like kind of stuff?
No, that's Raymond Chandler.
There we go. Yeah,
that's a different author.
Raymond
He's
Carver.
Also cool. Yeah, that's also very cool. But that's something completely different. Those are
Raymond
like
Carver.
detective stories.
No, but the way you described Raymond Carver sounds up my alley for sure.
Yeah.
Sparse is also a word I would use to describe stuff I like. So, yep, there's that one. Again, I don't remember that much about it, but I know I was enthralled by it. I read it, in like 2 days. So that's rare for me. So, and the Jimmy Corrigan, I would say is influential in it, and that it was, at that time I really wanted to do comics and stuff. This book, The Wisdom of Insecurity by Alan Watts, kind of a Zen kind of book. He's a brilliant person. I love Alan Watts so much, and the way he writes is just, every sentence is perfect to me. Just so smart, just highly intelligent writer, but like it speaks to me. And it may not ring true to anyone else, or I mean like many people, because it's from, I think, like 41 or something like that, 1949. But I don't know, I read that at a time where I was really into, finding meaning in life and figuring myself out.
You're over that now.
Found the meaning of life. He's good.
Okay, maybe you can relate. Like I jumped into it big time, and it was like all I could think about. And nowadays, it's obviously still there, but it's a little.
I know exactly what you mean.
More disillusioned by it, but I can always go back to this book. It's so good, and if you just listen to any talk he gives on YouTube, too, I just love the way he describes things.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've listened to a lot of Alan Watts. I've never read a book by him though, so I'd be interested too.
The Wisdom of Insecurity. This is my favorite. This might be the one. This might be the number one for me.
Nice.
Because it's just meaningful and it's written in the way that I like. So check that out. And the other two, I don't have physical copies of. One of them, I don't know why. Okay, I got to figure out why I chose this one. Is Fast Food Nation by Eric Schlosser, and it's just kind of journalism, or maybe like more of a history of the fast food industry. And yeah, I was gonna take it off, but whenever people ask me what my favorite book is, I think of that one first, and it's like a big thick book, and I think even kids read it in high school now, but also just the way it's written is so engaging and interesting. Every chapter he tells it through a story that through a story about himself meeting a human being in his life that's connected to maybe some history of Taco Bell or, whatever it is. And I don't know, it was just really entertaining, smartly written. I don't know. I just love, I think what I love in writing is just intelligent journalism kind of stuff is what I'm drawn to more so than novels and fiction.
Right.
So then finally, number one, I'd say maybe this is my number one. It's called The Things They Carried by Tim O'Brien.
Oh, yeah.
He's a Minnesota author. He wrote a few books about being in the Vietnam War. And this book I read in high school first in my literature class. And I remember loving the descriptions of what it was like in war. And I don't know why also as a kid I loved like movies about the Vietnam War. There's something like eerie and otherworldly about, that whole scene. So I was already kind of drawn to that. But it's a book about what is the truth. So he kind of talks about things that happened while he was there. And as the story goes on, you're kind of questioning, if he's a reliable storyteller, narrator, whatever that term is. But then by the end, he kind of goes into that, and what felt real actually real. To him, this thing happened. It may have been some other guy that killed the person or whatever, but to him, it felt this way. I don't know. I just thought it was profound, great storytelling, moving, yada yada. I've read that like 3 times, and that's really weird for me to read a book more than once. So that's my little list.
Yeah, and just looking on the internet, it's short stories. So is it like
The Things They Carried?
Yeah. Like they're linked short stories, but like does that help make it like a more digestible read for you? That it's compartmentalized
maybe
that way?
I don't remember. I don't think of it.
I was going to say I think 2 of your choices were collections of short stories, right?
Yeah. This one definitely reads more like a novel to me. But yeah, I can see how it could be considered a collection of short stories too, but it's a more cohesive.
Yeah, linked short stories is an interesting qualifier.
Is that not just a novel?
There's so many novels I could describe as linked short stories.
Right.
I think he plays with like the form a lot, and like it shifts characters and stuff, but it all I think what separates it from something like the George Saunders book is that Saunders is clearly just, these stories are so wildly different. This one, it feels like it's all from the same voice, like the same. Feels very much him, Tim O'Brien, the person. So I realized that every one of my books is written by a white man. So who cares?
Yeah,
who cares? People give you shit for that these days, but I'd like to read
whatever,
more,
man.
That just happens to be what it was.
You moved past
like what you like.
trying to find the meaning in
Exactly.
things, right, Anders?
What's that?
You moved past trying to find the meaning in things.
Yeah, true.
So
Yeah, just go with it. I like what
Yeah.
I like.
Yeah, that's a cool list. I want to check some of these out.
yeah, I'm gonna read that
Sweet.
last one for sure. Number 1.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely want to check out Watts. I've been thinking about like he's probably not surprising to anyone, like that the Google will send Alan Watts up to me frequently, based on my various interests. So, but
It's
I've
interesting.
never really gotten into it. So maybe
It's interesting because I think
he.
he died of alcoholism, maybe, which is interesting since he's kind
Allegedly.
of like this. Yeah, right. Since he's this like Zen, he's supposed to be this kind of Zen master. But
Is he kind of like a Terrence McKenna kind of guy? Do you know who that is?
Yeah, no, I
know Terrence Stamp.
Terrence McKenna is more like a psychonaut, right? He did trips, and then he kind of tries to explain what's happening in the trips.
Yeah.
Watts is he's more of a kind
philosophical.
Yeah, but he's more of a he's just really well read. He's just like an expert. He just knows everything about all the world religions, and through travel and reading and study, and he kind of compiles it into one thing. And he talks about, he'll wrap up, Christianity into Buddhism, into Zen Buddhism, and all these things, to kind of create this whole picture of, I guess, the meaning of life. I don't know.
I love people who can do that. Like, like you were talking about Fisher, your tour guide reminded me of like people who I've met in the past, like be they professors or, just interesting people to talk to who just have this way of assimilating information where they don't, like, where I feel like I don't know. I feel like when I assimilate information, like it goes in on a deep level and then it's hard for me to access the details. But then these people have a way of just not only retaining that information, but then expressing it in a way that's like entertaining and enlightening. And I've always just been so jealous of that ability.
Same. It's like their breadth and depth of knowledge has every single neuron in their brain connected to every other neuron. Or something. So that they can just like,
it's so cool.
Materialize information any way they want.
Yeah, I just love being in the presence of people like that. It's fun.
Unless they just get it too far ahead of me, and
you gotta focus. You gotta focus up.
But I think people who focus on being a teacher, that's one of the skills, right? Is being able to read your audience and not getting ahead of them.
Yeah.
And I think somebody like Watts, whose entire life was kind of being this philosophical entertainer, right? Like he knew his audience and he plays to his audience. Or like my tour guide, Bart, right? He's literally a certified lecturer in 4 languages, right? Guiding tours for stupid Americans. He like had 25 years of practicing reading his audience and playing to it. So I definitely think like knowing where to meet your audience and how to hook them, engage them, but not bore them or roll past them is part of that skill. And I imagine a lot of it's practice, right? There's definitely some innate charisma and stuff involved too in a lot of these people, but I think a lot of it's practice.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Fisher, I think you're pretty skilled at doing that.
I'm way too rambly, man.
I don't know. You're very clear. You're very clear, and I think you'd be a good teacher.
I appreciate it.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Find a job that pays even less than game designer and go into teaching.
Yeah. Ask Jay Little about his teaching experience.
Teachers are the best, though. To be a good teacher, just like you're saying, Andrew Navarro. What a cool gift.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so valuable.
So I'll just keep talking. So that's my books. Hope you all enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for the list, Anders. That was great. You really you undersold yourself.
I know. I'm feeling that way now too. I think it's just because it's like I said, it's not like my main form of entertainment. Like these are the 5 books of probably 100 books that I've read. So
there's like some pressure to have like meaningful books, to a broad audience, but like they're meaningful to you, and that's enough.
Who am I trying to impress? I'm not trying to impress anybody here. Yeah, it's meaningful to me. And maybe you guys will read them. Yeah, you got to check it. I love that Watts book so much. So then we have our listener questions. Wow, forgot about that. We have a few. Let's dive right into the old listener questions. Hierophantic. In card traits in Rangers, what is a trail? What is the narrative reasoning? For example, Lone Tree Station is not a trail. Headwaters Station is a trail. Will there be trails as we head into Legacy of the Ancestors?
I always like how we have this far-reaching conversation about literature and stuff, and we dive right into like nitty-gritty specifics of the game.
That's great.
I sometimes I'll try to order the questions from like general to specific, but sometimes you just dive right in. I think this one came from a conversation on the Card of the Day channel or something. Folks were talking about like the trail trait and what's going on with that. I think it's kind of serving Hierophantic mentions this in a bit of the question we didn't get to, but it's kind of serving a couple masters here, right? It's like serving this mechanical master of keying some of our more powerful traversal abilities, but then it's also serving this thematic master of representing things that are places that are easy to traverse and get through, like usually represented by some kind of large accessible trail accessible to general people. The examples given being Lone Tree Station not being a trail, but Headwater Station being a trail. I think if I could give a little bit of logic there, I think part of the logic was that, well, Lone Tree Station is the home of the Rangers. It's not necessarily like it's not as well trafficked as like Spire or something, right? Like it's still a place that the Rangers go to and is designed for the Rangers to get there easily, but maybe not necessarily like Mississippian merchants rolling up with their hover sledges might have a harder time getting to Lone Tree than somebody else might. So I think that was some of the logic there. Headwater Station, because it's all tucked away, you might think, oh, not a trail. However, I think some of the logic that went into that is the only way you get there is by the river. The only way. And that's actually pretty wide open for you, right? Like it's not flowing too hard at the headwaters yet. Of this kind of spur river here. So for the transport that you are using to get there, it is a trail, even if because it's entirely impossible to get there by foot, right? If it had like a by foot trail, that definitely trail might not be warranted on that location. But anyway, so that's some of the logic. The other logic is just like places we wanted to be easily traversable through player powers, right?
Yeah, I think that's the thing. It's like balancing the need to have things for your cards that interact with trails to do versus like thematically, should this thing be a trail, and trying to strike a balance between those two things.
You'll definitely see us straining at the definition of trail a bit in some of the expansion cards.
But there are trails. There are trails in the expansion, to be clear. Your trail cards will not be useless in the expansion.
Yeah, we're not going to turn off an entire like explorer archetype for thematic reasons. Right. So don't worry.
But at one point you had to ask yourself, what is a trail, though? Just so you can kind of stretch it a little bit.
We had to ask some, wax philosophic about what is a path.
Yeah, I couldn't remember. At the end of playtesting, did we have a lack of trails, or we have too many trails?
There was a injection of trails at one point, because we did make the conscious choice that there were fewer to kind of represent some of these places, like especially as you're delving kind of away from the valley, there's going to be less heavily trafficked areas. And so because of that, we wanted, that archetype is still going to be useful. We wanted it to kind of feel in certain places like it isn't useful until you're back kind of in the more main areas. And so there is some intention there, but we maybe went a little far with it and like populated a few more trail cards into the game to make it not feel completely up a creek.
Mm-hmm. All right, our next question comes from another name I like to say, Grizzamentum. Given the difficulties of printing regionally and sustainably, what resources have you or could you share with other publishers to make it easier for them? Do you consider starting/joining an environmentally friendly printing cooperative?
Just something simple like that.
Should I finish? And then hypothetically, what would you as a player... Oh, wait, this is a totally different question.
I think it's a separate question. Yeah.
Okay, finish.
All right.
Answer that one.
Yeah, so... yeah, we've talked about this before. So taking the time to put all this stuff together is difficult, just because it is time consuming. And there are people out there like the Green Games Guide, for example, who have already like put in a lot of this work. And I think, when we looked at the Green Games Guide, we saw that I think while it didn't like follow Earthborne's mission to a T, it's a pretty good starting point. And if you were to follow it, you'd be on a pretty good track. So in my mind, a lot of that work has been done. That being said, I've been chatting with a student who's interested in doing a paper about like a case study on us. And I have to email him back. I meant to do that today. I didn't. But anyway, we've been talking for a few months, almost a year now at this point. But I think there's a chance that paper could potentially be, serve this purpose, and we might be able to make that publicly available if he's interested in doing that. So we'll see. But when it comes to like printing regionally, we're not done yet, so we'll see how when it's all said and done, like what wisdom I could offer. But I just think there's going to be so few people are going to take advantage of it.
Especially really for the regional
offer.
For the regional printing too, it's so based on the people you're working with, right? Because ultimately printers are people, right? Like
yes, printers are people.
Well, it's easy to think about them as like machines, right? Because like, our personal scale printers are just machines, but like they're people who are putting all sorts of decisions into making your game. So we have to find people in different regions and then get them to work together, which is going to be kind of different every time, right? So there's we can put together some templates for stuff like production methods. Like, how do you work with people across multiple continents and coordinate them together is, I think there's whole college degrees on that.
Sure. Yeah. And I mean, like I said, the jury's still out too. So like, the factories we're working with, the people there have been great, and they're bought in, they're, want to be part of this and try to make this thing happen. So yeah, and that was, a couple of years, I guess, of forming these relationships and meeting the right people that were interested in doing it. So yeah, getting the right people on board, you're right, Fisher, is probably the main thing, for sure. But yeah, I don't know how broadly applicable anything that we learn from it will be. We'll, like I said, we'll find out. The next couple months will tell us a lot. And then when it comes to like joining a friendly printing, environmentally friendly printing cooperative, I have actually thought of that. I had an idea to do something very, very similar to that a couple of years ago, but it's one of those ideas. I have lots of ideas. And it's one of those ideas where I was like, I would love it if someone were to do this. I don't want to do this. Like, well, let's like a printing co-op would be awesome. Like, and I had
especially
this,
I'll
put it. Yeah, exactly. And that's exactly what I was thinking. I was like, what if like all the, Twin Cities game publishers got together and bought ourselves a factory, and then we had a co-op factory in the States that we could all use and then take advantage of, cost savings of like ordering stuff and working together. But that's a job.
That's
a huge
it's
job.
Many jobs.
Yeah, that's like an entrepreneurial like endeavor right there. And when I ask myself the question, do I want to do this? No. Would it be cool? Absolutely. So that's an idea. If there's someone in the Twin Cities who wants to make that a reality, consider me interested.
Yeah. Excited about it, not excited about running it.
No. I think it could be really cool though. But yeah, you'd need a lot of money to get that off the ground.
I'll email Strange Stars.
Well, Chris is already doing that. He's got a factory. Like, he's trying to build a factory. And yeah, I mean, like I feel like the things that he's doing now are stuff that he and I were talking about like back in like 2010. So it's really cool that he's doing it. But I remember having a similar conversation with him then. I was like, we should do this. Like, this is the end goal. Because like when I came back from Games Workshop, and I was like, how they're doing it is how we should do it, because that's awesome. Where everything they do, they have the factory, they have the design studio, they have the shipping, all in this little campus. It's all super tight. It's all well managed. It's all super flexible and nimble when it comes to like being able to produce what they need when they need it. It's a very cool setup, especially when you're like a large to medium size. I think Games Workshop is like bloated beyond the capacity of what they can do in that campus, which is why I think they do stuff in China and stuff too. So, but I think I came back from that trip like really impressed and fully bought in that that's exactly what FFG should do. So it's cool that he's like, as with with his Strange Stars multiple company thing, that he has something sort of like that, but it's not quite the same.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, he is working towards it, right?
Yeah,
like he prints Keyforge here, right?
Yep.
So.
Yep.
All right. And then the next question, hypothetically, what would you as players of an EBR RPG like to explore in a campaign you played in?
People, the podcast channel is it keeps asking about the role playing game.
Yeah.
Every episode.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
They want it.
What we want to explore. I mean, like, there's a couple ways to answer this question because we can just talk about like what's cool, but I do think what you explore in the Earthborne RPG was actually one of the kind of interesting questions we talked about as we started working on it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things about Earthborne is we have some very specific guidelines for what like this futuristic world is like. Not just like from a very fiddly IP standpoint, but from a thematic standpoint of the kinds of stories we're telling, right? And one of the tricky things is that a lot of RPGs fall back on a lot of tropes, right? Because it's very easy for GMs to structure a game around tropes. I'm not saying this like it's a bad thing, right?
Yeah.
Like I find tropes are almost critical for GMs to establish shared knowledge in your group. But the problem is a lot of those tropes aren't available. Or if you use them, it'll cease to feel like an Earthborne story, right? And so that was one of the challenges we ran into, is that you immediately want to start falling back on tropes that aren't very Earthborne. And so how do you tell an Earthborne story is something that we kind of have to train the GM in on a Earthborne role-playing game. So because of that, one thing, again, like the RPG is still in this very kind of early stage. And like we've talked about, we're focusing on some other projects right now, so it is not moving forward very quickly. But so just to remind everybody of where we're at on that and not set any expectations.
Right.
But like one of the things we talked a lot about is that I think that the game will likely give you a narrative structure around which your group of rangers is already focused at the get-go. I won't say exactly what that is, but like as far as like what things you're exploring in the campaign, I do think that the game will give you a kind of specific premise, at least in the core, like in the main book, to kind of get you going in telling a ranger's story.
Yeah.
So that makes all that background makes this slightly harder to answer.
Yeah, I think that's about as much as we could answer it at this point. Because yeah, we want to offer something that's not just rangers, but in role-playing form, like to try to give you a little bit different experience than you might get out of the game, but also still allowing you to do an Earthborne Rangers in role-playing form. But then leaving the door open for you to do whatever the heck you want, because that's the beauty of a role-playing game, is it gives you the opportunity, in my mind, gives you the opportunity to tell the story that you want with a few prompts.
What I would like to see selfishly is some of our characters that we've created be immortalized in the pages of the RPG, like Renzo and Obo Bobo and stuff.
As NPCs?
I think that'd be cool. Yeah, because I remember when I found out that Tensor, a wizard in the D&D world, is just a anagram for Ernest, which is like the son of one of the developers of D&D. Can't remember which one. And I when I played 3.5, I was always casting Tensor's floating disc and other stuff like that. And And then when I learned about them, I'm like, whoa, that's amazing. It's just this kid was just playing around, and then his playtime was turned into like lore,
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think at the very least we would have to get some of our playcast characters into the examples of play.
Well,
Right?
I mean, we play tested an early version of the RPG.
Yeah, it was fun.
At Burning Brothers, and I was playing as Renzo. So, and I don't know.
I don't remember what my character's name was.
Are you sure you weren't playing your character from the playcast?
I don't think so, because I think you came up with Renzo for that, and then you brought Renzo into the playcast.
Yeah.
I was playing an Aatrox.
Yeah.
Okay, guys, do you think we should skip the final question for time?
Yeah, we've skipped it.
Yeah.
We skipped it last episode too. We'll skip it this time.
Okay.
We'll get to it. We promise next
one day.
time.
I'm feeling sleepy, and I'm so excited to talk about my stuff this week.
Yeah.
Ooh, all right.
First of all, there's a new deck builder in my life that I think is the best roguelike deck builder. The best one. Maybe not the best one, but I think it's my favorite one. It could be the best one.
It is the best. Maybe not the best.
Well,
but the best.
You know what I mean? There's a difference between favorite and best. Like it may not be the best.
Okay, but you said best.
I can change it. I can change my words. Here we go. I used to say it was Slay the Spire, but now I'm obsessed with Monster Train. Have you guys ever played Monster Train?
I've
heard of it.
I love Monster Train. Monster Train's so good. It at first sight, it looks like at first glance, it looks like they tried to do Slay the Spire, which is what they did. But they added their own thing. There's 3 levels you're dealing with. I don't need to go all into it. People know what it is, but Monster Train, for me, it's just way more fun. I jumped back into Slay the Spire, and it felt so sluggish and boring. And I can see how I think Slay the Spire has more room for nuance and kind of slowly building your deck in different ways. Monster Train is just like pure fun for me. I actually want to keep after I beat it, I want to do the next difficulty challenge. I want to fill up every, spot on the, tallying up, unlocks and all that. Monster Train, I love it. I'm obsessed with Monster Train. But there were 2 games that came out this week that have been in my wish list for 7 years. Well, one of them for 7 years, and one, I don't know, maybe a couple years. One of them is the Plucky Squire, and the other is called UFO 50. And Plucky Squire is a very Nintendo-esque looking game. You've all probably seen it by now. It looks kind of like a newer top-down Zelda, like the art style, the 3D aspect of it. So you switch between 2D and 3D. The 2D kind of looks like a Cartoon Network style, and then 3D kind of reminds me of what was that latest remake, Link's Awakening?
Yeah, where they remade the Game Boy one, where it's kind of that slight tilt shift. Yeah.
Which I love.
It's a beautiful looking game. It's looks fantastic.
It is. I played about 30 minutes of it last night while my daughter was sleeping next to me. So it wasn't prime time to do it. But my first impressions were it's not what I wanted it to be. It's very much, and this could just be the opening segment, but I've heard other sentiments from other reviewers. It's very on rails. Do this. Now we're going to do a little cutscene and dialogue, and now you're barely in control of your character, and it's kind of bumming me out. But I'm gonna keep going. But UFO 50, I think, is big. It's big time.
Okay.
I've been seeing a lot of buzz on social media about it. I had not heard of it before you talked about it, and now I've seen multiple people talking about it.
It's from the, I think it was the initial idea was from this guy Derek Yu, who made Spelunky, which I love. Spelunky. I suck at it, but I think it's a really great game.
I'm right there with you.
I think it's cool. I don't get very far, but I think it's awesome. And some other cool designers, the guy who made Downwell, which I also suck at, but I like a lot. But it's just this collection of 50 fake, or like, they're real games, but the idea is that they are unearthed games from a forgotten game company called UFO Soft, and they all have like years.
That's cool.
Yeah, they all have like like when you load up each game, it'll be like 1982 UFO Soft, and
so it's like one of those. It's like the Atari collections, except totally fictional.
Totally fictional.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's interesting.
But they're all implementing kind of like really crazy, cool ideas. I've only played maybe 15 out of the 50. One of them is called Mortal, and they all have like cool, like dumb names like that, like Valtrex and like what is that? But Mortal, there's this little airplane. It's a side scroller. This little airplane that drops these little guys down one at a time. So the first guy will come down, and you can try to get through the level, and you can either turn into a brick or like a big stone, and then another guy will fly out of the airplane, and you have 20 of these guys. Or you can like shoot across the screen and become kind of like a ladder rung to like climb up somewhere, and then another guy will come down. Or you can like explode. So each guy can kind of do different stuff. And I don't know, it's just a lot of these kind of weird takes on things, and it's kind of taken to its full extent. There's some really cool puzzle games. Some of them, like the first game is supposed to be, they're all in chronological order, and the first game is supposed to be their first game, and it's just so slow and obtuse, and you just don't know what the hell you're supposed to do. And it just feels so true to some. It reminds me of that feeling when you're a kid and you're at your friend's house, and there's like a stack of games, and you pop one in and you just suck and you don't know what you're supposed to do. You like to do something,
is that the side-scrolling dungeon crawly one? I saw that Tom Brewster of Shut Up and Sit Down had posted. He was hand drawing a map of one of the games from UFO 50 on graph paper, trying to figure out
that's what you do as a kid.
The scope of the map.
Yeah, it's called like, Baruda or something. Baruka.
Yeah. I played that one, and it was hard.
But people are saying, hey, that's actually an awesome game once you like get into it. It's actually super cool. But yeah, it just reminds me of, you pop in a game and you try to do something, and the aliens crash through the window and they say, you have failed. And you're like, why? What had happened?
Yeah.
I don't know what I did wrong.
Or back in the days of rental, you would rent a game, make some progress, you'd have to return it, and then some other kid in the neighborhood like overwrites your progress.
Right. So like half the games you actually have to start over every time.
It made me think of Intellivision. Do you guys ever play any Intellivision games?
Yeah.
Where like the controllers had like these weird dials on them, and you had like every time I sat down to play something, I'd be like, I don't even know what's going on.
What is this?
I don't know how to do this. Yeah.
But my aunt and uncle had one, and it was like their only video game console, right?
Ever.
And so like when we were over there, we were going to play on that thing.
Yeah. It's terrible. It's a terrible thing.
Luckily, I think they sprinkle those in there for realism. I think many of the games though are very playable and fun and unique and cool. I think it's I can't even explain it. To me, it's getting in there and just allowing yourself to find something and then get absorbed into it. It reminds me that like Ninja Gaiden, super janky and weird, but like you learn those weird janky controls, and you just get sucked in, and you just want to get to the next level, even though it's you know what I mean. Like everything every indie game these days is just perfect, polished. You move your character, it goes exactly where you want it to go. There's something fun about learning the weirdness of whatever the limitations were on the technology at the time, and this game, like, you have to play it to, I think, feel that feeling, which is what makes it, I think, so special. So check it out.
Cool. All right.
Okay, but can we talk about the fact that they made 50 of these things?
I know.
50.
Well,
that is so many.
That's
I
a lot.
remember
over 7 years.
I heard about this. I heard about the game from Will at FFG years ago, and I thought it was just going to come out in a year, and I forgot about it until Anders mentioned it.
Yeah, it's cool.
If it took like 10 years to make, then that makes sense. So there's 50 there's 50 of them, but it took a long time.
Because can you imagine
even at 10 years, that's so many games. At 10 years, they were making a video game every 2.5 months.
Yeah. I think they're going
Like-
kind of simultaneously because there's maybe like 6 people on the team.
Aren't there developers, well-known developers from yesteryear that participated or something? I thought there was that video you shared.
Oh, okay.
I thought,
They like split it up.
Oh yeah,
I
I
thought
don't
there
know.
was a well-known developer that made one of the games or something. But
I don't think so. I think they pretend that there was like from that company. They have like names like
like a fake well-known developer.
Yeah, I don't think
I'm
so.
super intrigued now. I'm super intrigued.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, imagine if it was UFO 10, you would not care. It has to be 50.
You're right. You gotta go big.
They said they wanted to
that's
feel
true.
like when you get an emulator now and you get all these preloaded games and you're just kind of like sifting through and finding weirdness. I love it. I can't wait to go. I had a crazy week. I've been so excited to just have tomorrow off, and I'm just gonna lay in bed, play that game.
Nice.
Yeah. Anyway, I've been excited about that. So you got it, Evan?
I did, and I played that first game, game number 1.
We'll talk.
And now,
Be sure to text me about things you find.
I might play a little bit more tonight.
There's a podcast that's doing 1 game a week for a whole year.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
that's cool.
That's fun.
That's a good
So
premise.
I'm going to kind of play along and hear what they have to say about it. All right. Fisher, what have you been doing?
Yeah, I actually got to play some video games while I was in France. I had some like time on the train and stuff that the train didn't even have Wi-Fi, so I couldn't even be my toxic, overproductive self and work. I took my Switch and I booted back up Tears of the Kingdom, one of the many games that I came out in the last year and a half and I haven't been able to finish. So I played more of that, which was really fun, just to just play a game for the fun of it and not for any other reason.
Mm-hmm.
Though I still have this nagging feeling with Tears of the Kingdom, like it's doing too much. Like Breath of the Wild felt like I felt immersed in this world and like I was anchored in this world, and like it didn't feel real, right? It's a Zelda game, but like I felt part of, I could imagine myself in this setting. Tears of the Kingdom, I feel like I'm playing a game, right? It feels like every X number of meters you need an activity.
Yeah.
Like you're constantly playing Gary's Mod and strapping stuff to you. And I feel like I'm in a game, not like I'm in a fantasy world.
I agree.
So it doesn't immerse me in the same way.
Same.
So I'm still it's never quite stuck with me because it lacks that immersion factor, even if it's a fun game.
Yeah, I don't want to do all that crafting and stuff, you know?
Yeah, it's a lot of fiddly work to I need every weapon you pick up sucks. You better go into your inventory, dig around until you find something sharp, drop it on the ground, then fuse it to your weapon, you know.
And there's always been that just element in especially Zelda games where where are you carrying all this stuff? But this is to the next level.
Oh
10
yeah,
times.
Yeah, it's yeah.
I wish
belt.
They had the courage to implement that system, but not tell people about it, and then just have people discover it on their own as a way to, solve puzzles.
Tucked into the background.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I was still having fun. That all my complaints, but aside, I still was enjoying myself. And then the other game I've put a little bit of time into that I'm playing, Matt and I are going to boot it up and do co-op this weekend, is Space Marine 2. Good old-fashioned Warhammer fun. It is exactly what I expected, and I love that about it, right? It feels a lot like Space Marine 1, but more polished. It's that kind of over-the-shoulder kind of Gears of War amped up a few levels, no chest high walls, just doing the Doom thing of just running forward. And you're fighting Tyranids, which is the faction I play in 40K. So
how do you feel about that?
It's just cool because you get to see that, I accept my role on the 40K table as the bad guy, right? I'm the evil bugs that need to get squashed. So I'm fine squashing some bugs in the game. And the stuff they do is pretty wild. there's some scenes where it looks like you're looking out over this horizon and you're like, oh, that's a pre-rendered like skybox or whatever.
Yeah.
And then you realize, and because there's just seas of Tyranids, right, coming over. And then you realize, oh no, those are all in engine. And those aren't just a scripted sequence. They're coming up here and they're going to fight me, right? Like, you think it's like some pre-rendered thing that's happening, you know, outside of the playable area, because there's no way they'd throw that many Tyranids at you. But they like all start climbing the walls and jumping over, and like
that's cool.
They really get across the sense of scope, and you know, all the gory details of murdering said bugs. So I've been having fun.
Andrew, you were playing that too. Do you want to?
Yeah.
Piggyback on that?
Sure. Yeah. No, I've also been playing Space Marine too. Like I said last time, I was playing Black Myth Wukong, and I was like, I might just set that down and play Space Marine. that's what happened. I got so excited about playing Space Marine that I realized you could spend more money to get it early, I did that.
How do they do that? What do they do?
You know, they're like, pre-order it and get the season pass. It was like $30 more, and I wanted to play it, so I'm like, it's a thing with me with games in general, but video games in particular, where if the seed gets planted, like there's a part of me that's like, hey, yeah, you should go play that thing. You can get it right. You can play it right now if you want. You should go do that too. I'll be like, all right, fine, and then I'll just buy it. So
yeah,
that's what I did. Yeah, it's pretty great. I was playing a little bit single player. It's got the thing at the beginning of the game where you have like your different difficulties when you choose your difficulty at the beginning, and there's like easy, normal, veteran, and then some other one. I don't know what it was, but under veteran it says this is the way it's meant to be played. So I'm like, okay, I'll do that. So that's what I've been doing. Single player is bad. I like it's doable, but like it's single player where it's always set up for 3 players. Like it's meant to be played 3-player co-op. And you're just there with like 2 AI buddies, and they suck. Like all they're good at is picking you up if you get knocked down. But they've tuned them such where they don't really do much of any damage. Usually, sometimes they'll just destroy things randomly. They'll do a lot of work. Sometimes they do no work at all. But they're just like damage sponges. They hardly take any damage. But if you ever go down, they're usually there to pick you back up, and that's all they're good for. But I've played a couple times co-op with friends, and then last Friday, the last time I played with 2 friends, so it was like, you know, the full contingent, and that was awesome. That is the way to play that game, is the full 3 players. So I'm going to try to do some more of that this weekend. But yeah, the scale is phenomenal. Like, and it is a massive upgrade over the original. There's so many more animations, and it's super fun. It's very, very 40K. If you are a fan of 40K, this game very much delivers. It's pretty great.
Yeah, but we're all the Eldar.
Yeah, there's no Eldar.
Dang.
Not yet, anyway. But it's like, it's 40K is at its best when it's taking itself super seriously, and it is
like too seriously,
it is
right?
Very, very serious, and I love it for that. It's awesome. It's awesome. It's such a fun setting.
Cool. Let's hop over to Evan before we go to your last thing.
Yeah, I can keep this quick because I don't really have much. I haven't really.
Yeah,
I
keep it
feel
quick.
Embarrassed. I'm like, I'm not into anything.
You're being a dad, man. That's the best thing.
Yeah, that's true. No, like I said, I was in jury duty, and it gave me an opportunity to have a lot of downtime, and I picked up a book that I had put down that I was reading on the plane to Costa Rica and back, and that I found it Half Price Books, and I was drawn to it for the same reason you were, Andrew. Is one of those old vintage looking kind of books with like the red
I
had that one.
sides.
I love that.
Yeah. Anyways, the book is book 2 of a series.
I love that cover.
This one's called A Separate Reality. It's by an author who is an anthropologist named Carlos Castaneda, and these books are all about him learning the ways of becoming what's called a man of knowledge by a native Mexican shaman who's teaching him all these things, and he is basically there for the science of it in the learning about another culture and how their worldview is different from his own, but he ends up partaking in all these trippy reality bending experiences with with peyote and like this smokable mixture of like what he thought was some sort of mushrooms, and he tries to scientifically document his experiences, kind of like when I mentioned Terrence McKenna and you said, Anders, you said he was a psychonaut, yeah. So a lot of the book, the reason I'm hooked on
the right word? Sorry, that's a video game,
so.
right?
But I think that is that
gets the point across.
Yeah.
Okay, good enough. Sorry,
but
go ahead.
The reason I'm hooked on these books is because you get a sense that this shaman named Don Juan, I don't know if that's his real name, but that's what he's referred to as. He has this totally different view of the world, and he cannot explain it. And this very literal, analytical anthropologist is trying his best to document what that worldview is and how he sees the world, and he just cannot. And they're two different people, and they're just like butting heads. And he's having these experiences that are slowly opening the door into this more psychedelic world, and maybe he can get a glimpse of how his mentor is seeing the world. And there's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of wild stuff. This Don Juan character talks about brujos, which are like witch doctors, and all sorts of crazy things that are interesting to me. But anyways,
it's cool.
That's cool.
There's this thing, one of these things in the book is Don Juan talks about how Carlos Castaneda looks at things, and Don Juan himself sees things, and he's trying to explain what the difference between those two very similar terms are. And I'm just like, I really want to know what the hell he's talking about. So I'm trying to get through it. I made a really good dent in it during jury duty, because there's so much downtime when like witnesses weren't showing up and stuff. So
you said it's part 2.
Yep.
How many parts are there?
3. There's just 3 books, and yeah.
I've heard that some people question if that's actually real experience that he had or not, or if it's just purely fiction.
I'm open-minded to it. I'm not reading it like I believe everything.
Mm-hmm.
But it's definitely all very interesting to think about, because regardless of what is true or not, the concepts involved are interesting to me. So, and I guess I can probably get more into that when I do my top 5.
Yeah, there you
so
go.
Consider that a preview.
Can't wait. Alrighty. Okay. And one more thing.
Yeah. So I already talked about Space Marine, but I've been making my way through the Patterson cut of Ahsoka.
What's the Patterson cut?
So this Patterson guy.
The actor Robert Patterson.
Not Rob. No, that's Pattinson. That's Pattinson.
Oh no, James Patterson, the author, the airport author.
That's the one. No, so he's the guy who did that edit of Obi-Wan into like a film from the show, and I was like, yeah, it didn't fix everything, but it made it a much better, tighter story, less fluff. Like it was I think.
So it's like
a much better version of that show distilled down into like a 2+ hour thing.
Is that
so he did a similar thing for Ahsoka. What's that?
That's like a fan made thing,
it's
or
a
is it
fan made
official?
thing? Yeah,
Okay.
so it's a fan edit of the Ahsoka series.
Yeah.
So in addition to like chopping up the series into like it's like a 2 hours and 30-minute piece, he like either did or commissioned additional special effects shots.
Wow.
Which is what he did a little bit in the Obi-Wan one. Yeah, like it's the amount of work he put into this thing is wild. So like so Ahsoka I didn't like a ton. There were parts of it I did like, but I had issues with a lot of the, I don't know. There's the characters in that show make a lot of stupid decisions, and there's some like Sabine getting stabbed by a lightsaber and just being up and walking around the next episode was pretty irritating to me. But so kind of like in Obi-Wan, where he like was able to cut out a lot of the fluff and in so doing remove some of the more like problematic lore bits or plot points that really didn't quite go where they needed to go. He's been able to do that with Ahsoka too. So like if you remember how Ahsoka started with her like going down to the planet and getting the orb, and then there's like all this like nonsense around the orb, and she brings it to Sabine, and then she has the orb, and then she's like, oh, how about I just turn it? And then anyway, a lot of dumb stuff with that, and then she gets stabbed, and then the bad guys get the orb. All that's gone. Like it's just cut straight to it. The bad guys have the orb, they have the map, and then and it works. Like I keep waiting for things to show up that I remember from the show. I'm like, oh yeah, that didn't really need to be there at all. So far it's been pretty good. I just got through my favorite part of that show again, which was the Clone Wars flashback stuff. I wish the whole show was just that. That'd be cool.
How do you watch
I love
it?
seeing Anakin in his Clone Wars
gear
like in real life from the cartoon. It's pretty fun.
I've always wanted to see Obi-Wan in his Clone Wars armor, the white armor and the greaves and stuff.
Yeah.
But how do you watch it though? Do you have to?
So you have to go to it just ended up being in my YouTube feed somehow, and I clicked on a video that had a link in the description. I went to the link. It then has a link to all of his cuts. So he did one for Boba Fett too, which I didn't know. I don't know how he could make that good. I don't know if that's possible. Maybe it's only like 10 minutes long.
No, it's just the Mandalorian episode that's inside Boba Fett, and that's it.
Exactly. Yeah. Yep. It's just the 2 Mandalorian episodes of Boba Fett. That's pretty accurate though. But anyway, So anyway, there's like a link. It takes you to this page that has all these other links, and then you click on it and go to a WeTransfer, and then you just download the movie file. So I'm just watching it on my QuickTime player on my computer. But so far it's been pretty good. I'm really interested to see like how they treat the back half of the show, because I just thought Thrawn was so dumb, and all of his interactions with the rebels on the surface with Sabine and Ezra and Ahsoka, like I was like, it's just for a tactical mastermind, this guy's a gigantic idiot. So I'm hopeful that they'll like do something. He'll do something with the editing to make him seem more capable.
I don't know why, but I was kind of annoyed by how they treated his unit of stormtroopers and how they like modified their armor.
Yeah, you didn't like the guy with the face? I thought that was kind of cool.
Well, I just thought, did they just keep their armor in a big box, and it fell down like 20 flights of stairs and it all broke, and then they had to sort it out and tape it together? Just like,
yeah, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that in the show, but so far I think it's a marginal improvement. It got rid of Sabine getting stabbed, so that's big points right there. So that's pretty good. So so we'll see. Like I did not like the back half of that show, so we'll see how he edits it. Like that's been the fun thing for me to watch, is just to see how it's edited differently, and how it still tells the same story, but just more efficiently. It really goes to show you how much bloat is in a lot of shows.
Yeah. Got to be a show.
That's it.
Yep.
All
so
right.
yeah, I'll I may not talk about it again on the podcast, but I'll let you guys know how it goes.
Okay.
I have about 45 minutes left.
Nice. Well, cool. Good talking with you guys. Thanks for joining us, listeners. We appreciate you. Send us more questions. We're welcoming Darren the Dependable back. We need some questions. So we're sending out the Darren the Dependable signal right now.
Signal?
Uh-huh.
What does
still
Darren's
there?
signal look like? Is it like a question mark?
Yeah.
That's too
Question.
Riddler.
Yeah, it's Riddler. Let us know, Darren, in your question that you'll send us for next
It's
time.
the Daredevil symbol with the two D's linked
Oh,
together.
yeah. Just the
Yeah,
bonus.
that's it.
Oh yeah.
Nice.
The T in between. All right. Thanks, everybody. Goodbye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.